Good day and welcome to another episode of Live Light. You've probably heard of Maya Angelou, or perhaps come across one of her quotes that gripped your heart. She said things like, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel." She also said, "You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." But who was she really? What shaped her into the voice that touched so many hearts? I read her autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and it was a deeply moving coming-of-age story that covers her life from age 3 to 16. Let me tell you a bit about her. Maya Angelou was born in 1928 in St. Louis, Missouri, as Marguerite Annie Johnson. Her childhood was anything but easy. After her parents' divorce, she and her brother Bailey were shuffled between various family members, eventually settling with their grandmother in Stamps, Arkansas. In that quiet town, where racial tension and silence went hand in hand, the first spark of literary love ignited in Maya's heart. At the age of 8, Maya returned to her mother in St. Louis. There, her life took a dark turn when her mother's boyfriend, Freeman, sexually abused and raped her. He threatened to kill her brother if she spoke out, typically of men that do such terrible things. The threat was terrifying, but her trust in Bailey was stronger, and she told him. Bailey, needless to say, passed on the information to the rest of the family. Freeman was arrested, but he spent only one day in jail. Can you believe that? 4 days later, he was murdered, likely by family members. Maya believed that her words had caused his death, and so she chose not to speak. For 5 years, she was silent. She was mute. She lived in silence, but her inner world grew. She devoured books, memorized poetry, and she began writing her thoughts. Her voice was quiet, but her soul began to sing. Then came Bertha Flowers, a teacher who saw Maya's potential, and she encouraged her to read her poetry aloud. And then it happened. Maya's silence broke. Her voice returned, and with it, she became a voice for thousands. She didn't just write, she also fought. She was an activist during the time of Martin Luther King Jr., not to be confused with the church reformer Martin Luther. He lived a few centuries earlier. Maya's words brought light into dark places. She found her voice again and used it to help others find theirs. Her story reminds us that God can restore your voice too, even after trauma. But it also makes us ask, what is it that silences and steals our voices today? What causes us to fade into the background, whisper when we actually want to shout, and stay silent when we long to live fully? For many of us, the silencing started very early. We may have heard children should be seen and not heard. Or maybe you heard no one cares what you think, your voice doesn't matter, or what do you know in any case? Sometimes it's not words, but it's attitudes. That distant parent, a critical teacher, a manipulative relationship. Sometimes it is trauma, like sexual abuse or domestic violence. Maybe the loss of a loved one or alcohol abuse. Comparison with others also can steal your voice. The fear of not being good enough. And then there are the subtle silences, the feeling that you're not smart enough, the idea that others always speak better or know more, that inner voice whispering that says, don't say anything, you'll just embarrass yourself. But here's the truth. You are not destined for a life of silence. No one has the right to steal your voice. You have a voice and it matters. So how do you get your voice back? The good news is your voice isn't gone. It's waiting to be heard. And I want to share a few ways with you to begin reclaiming it. Firstly, I would say use prayer. Talk to the Lord who knows you completely. He gave you your voice and He will help you take it back. Secondly, use art. Art is a way to express what lives inside you. What you may not yet be able to express in words, you can express through painting or drawing, pottery or scrapbooking. There are so many forms of art. Anything that brings you joy. Art gives shape to what words haven't yet formed. Thirdly, try writing. Poetry, rhythm, rhyme. These can help you voice what stirs within. You can write songs, start a blog, or keep a journal. Words help you to hear yourself again. Fourthly, tell your story. Healing often comes when you share your truth. We often see that people who've been through trauma begin to tell their story to others. And you might wonder, how can they share what happened to them? It's so terrible. But that's exactly where healing lies, for them and for others. Maya says, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. This quote is the heartbeat of Maya's journey. It reminds us that our stories don't just bring healing to others, they bring healing to ourselves. Staying silent about what shaped you is to keep yourself imprisoned. But speaking out, even when you feel fragile, is to begin living freely. In a safe space, with a listening audience, your voice begins to live again. And lastly, community. Seek people who see you, who hear you, carry you. Your voice grows in relationship, not in isolation. I will share a few more ideas on my blog. Feel free to read it there on my website at www.livelightleeflig.com. Reclaiming your voice is not just a process. It's a sacred journey, a journey of healing, rediscovery, and revival. And you don't have to walk it alone. Like Maya, you can speak again. You can live again. You can believe again. You were not made for a life of silence. Your voice carries weight, truth, and hope. And even if it's been quiet for a while, it's not lost. The Lord whispers, I've called you by your name, and you are mine. Hold on to that and come and listen again, because your voice is part of a greater story still being written. So please share this message with someone who might need to hear it. It's on Facebook or YouTube or Spotify. And until next time, remember, live light.